Welcome to the Open Forum in the Villages, Florida podcast. In this show we talk to leaders in the community, leaders of clubs and interesting folks who live here in the Villages, to give perspectives of what is happening here in the Villages, Florida. We hope to add a new episode most Fridays at 9 a.m. We are a listener-supported podcast. There will be shout-outs for supporters in episodes. As a supporter, you will get a direct email link to Mike. In Season 5, we are making significant improvements and changes on an ongoing basis.
A note from the heart. Hello, dear listeners. I'm thrilled to share our passion project with you. Podcast that brings joy, knowledge, and inspiration. Creating it is a labor of love, even though it demands more time than I can easily spare. But hey, time isn't something that we can buy back, right? Now, here's where you come in, the unsung hero. You can help us keep the podcast alive and thriving. How? By becoming a supporter. 3 simple ways to support us. First, you can make a small monthly contribution. Visit our website, Open Forum in the Villages, Florida, and click on the supporter box. Even a humble $3 to $10 a month makes a difference. And guess what? You can cancel anytime, no strings attached, free and priceless. If your wallet is feeling a little light, no worries, you can still be a superhero. How? By rating our podcast. Give us those 5 shining stars or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, every click, every review, every share, it all adds up. Help us reach more ears, touch more hearts, and keep the podcast humming along in 2024 and beyond. From the bottom of our podcasting hearts, thank you. Your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep those headphones on.
If you have a book that you would like to turn into an audiobook, let us know via email to mike@rothvoice.com. Hope you enjoy today's show.
This is Mike Roth on Open Forum in the Villages. I'm here today with Mike Dumbropski. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike, for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Good. Mike, when I heard that you were doing a new sport here in the Villages called touch tennis, I absolutely thought, this is a guy I have to have on the show to talk about something new. But before we do that, Mike, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background before you got here in the Villages?
Sure. Well, currently I'm working on a program for the prevention of dementia and Alzheimer's. That's a current project that I'm working on. Most recently was the marketing director and sponsorship director for the B4Kids Champions Challenge in Orlando, Florida. That was a premier tennis event, which brought in national champions and Hall of Famers and benefited 7 nonprofits in the Orlando area. It raised over $325,000 for the participating nonprofits. I'm also a 40-year certified elite tennis professional with the United States Professional Tennis Association. And prior to that, I have corporate experience of about 13 years with 2 Fortune 500 companies, Wyndham Vacation Ownership and Diamond Resorts. And prior to that, I was tennis director for 13 years with several country clubs and racket and swim clubs.
So you've got a lot of years in the tennis business before you came here to the Villages.
Absolutely. A lot of experience in tennis and a lot of passion and love for the sport.
Okay. Even I used to play tennis.
Wonderful. We're going to have to get you out there playing a little touch tennis now.
Right. Now for our listeners, I think the most important thing is if you could tell us a little bit about what touch tennis is. It's like touch football?
Well, absolutely. It's touch tennis, or it's also referred to as foam ball tennis, is a shorter, easier to play, friendly form of tennis. It's an adaptive form that is played on shorter tennis court, can be played on pickleball courts. We play it primarily here in the Villages on the platform tennis courts. It's very easy. Players can even play tennis on a pop-up tennis court. They can set it up in their driveway, out in their backyard, or in their house.
Mm-hmm. So what I've noticed is some of the tennis courts get a little bit of use, but the platform tennis courts that I've watched as I drove by were almost never in use.
Well, they are. There's the platform tennis courts here get a lot of use. I think they have a league that goes on. But what we're finding is that the touch tennis adapts really well to the platform tennis courts because of the size of them. It's a real friendly. It's easy if you have players that, might have some mobility issues. Mm-hmm. It makes it an easy transition. I've had a lot of players that, left the sport of tennis because the mobility was an issue or they might have had some injuries. Mm-hmm. And this has given them an avenue to come back into the sport.
Now, in describing the sport, you said it's played with a foam ball. What is that exactly?
Exactly. It's like a Nerf ball. It can be the size of a tennis ball, or some of the foam balls are slightly larger, but it's got a really good feel to it. And the foam ball is really the secret sauce, and I think the success of the sport.
So it's unlike the pickleball ball, which is kind of plastic wiffle ball.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is, even if somebody accidentally gets hit by the foam ball, it's like being hit with a marshmallow. You can't even feel it. So
Really?
It's super, super safe.
That means when you slam it, it doesn't go that fast?
Exactly. It's the foam has a way of slowing it down, so you can get engaged in longer rallies, which makes for more fun when you're playing.
A lot of people on the pickleball courts who have mobility issues just kind of stand there, and if the ball comes in within range, they get it. In fact, the instruction on pickleball always says the most important thing in playing pickleball is never to fall, okay? What is the instruction in touch tennis?
The instruction in touch tennis is really just watching the ball. It's a slower pace, I think, than pickleball, the exchanges, so you have more time. What the players have expressed to me that they like about it is that you get a bounce. The ball does come up a little bit, so you get that true bounce similar to a regular tennis court bounce, where the pickleball's great. I think the two sports complement each other really well, but the bounce of the pickleball tends to be a lot lower, so there's a lot of bending, and the viewers can't see me, but I'm actually just about 6'3", so, I don't like to bend that much these days, and if I'm in the kitchen, I would rather be eating.
Okay. Depends on which kitchen you're talking about.
Exactly.
So let's talk a minute about the racket itself. Does it use a standard tennis racket?
No, the racket that we use, it's actually a junior racket. It's 21 to 23 inches. Those are the two rackets that we primarily use. The standard racket would be the 21-inch racket. Very inexpensive. You can buy a racket online, or you can get it at Walmart, any sporting goods store, $20 to $25. So it makes it very easy, for players to enter the sport. And it's very lightweight.
It's very lightweight.
Yes.
And are there any special shoes that people are supposed to wear?
Regular smooth athletic shoes, tennis shoes. I wouldn't wear running or track shoes that have too much of a tread on it, more of a smooth surface.
And the sport is played as singles only, or singles and doubles?
Played both. More common here in the villages that it's played as doubles. That's one of the beauties of the sport is that it's just like pickleball. It's real social. It brings people together in a closer area, which makes it really fun. And then, of course, the doubles format, playing with a partner.
Right. How long has touch tennis been here in the villages?
Touch tennis was introduced into the villages about 3 years ago. There was a player, Russ Jones, resident of the villages, who was really an advocate also in introducing and helping promote the growth of platform tennis. 3 years ago, he introduced the sport, and he got a group together over at First Responders. And so back in June of last year, I connected with Russ. He was doing a small introduction. He had about 15 people that came out. Russ and I had a great connection. His background was actually in racquetball.
Okay.
He was coaching a player that was on the professional racquetball tour prior to moving to the villages. My background, of course, was in tennis. We had a great connection. I offered to help him with the introduction, and with, following Russ's lead, I looked at the courts over at Seabreeze.
At Seabreeze?
Yeah, Seabreeze. We had 6 platform tennis courts over there, and there wasn't any touch tennis going. There wasn't an active group. I managed to connect with 3 passionate ladies who were just coming out. They had a foursome together. Lindy Gaylor, Tina McLaughlin, and Rosie Burrell. And they were very passionate, and they were playing once a week. And so we all collaborated together in taking this on as an initiative to promote it and get more players out. That started a little bit after Thanksgiving of last year. And as of date, we have 70 people that have signed up and are coming out and playing.
So you play only at Seabreeze?
So our group is at Seabreeze. Russ still has a group that's over at First Responders. I would say those are the 2 places where touch tennis is more active and it's somewhat organized. We have courts that are down and being renovated at Rohan. There's courts that are being renovated at Eisenhower. That's 12 additional platform tennis courts that once they're renovated, we'll get activities going there, and I'm sure we'll get groups, so
these are platform tennis courts that are being renovated?
Exactly. Yeah. They're under renovation right now, and they're being resurfaced. They should be opened up, I would anticipate, sometime later in 2024. So that's going to bring 12 more courts that we can get programs running and activity going. And to answer your question about a formal club, that would be the next step.
Okay.
You know, right now we have 70 that are signed up and we have names and emails. So we're, you know, as the club grows, I'm sure we'll go that route and then try to coordinate it within the villages.
I think you only need 10 to be a club,
Mm-hmm.
and you do get some certain advantages by being a club. I would highly recommend it.
Wonderful.
So if they wanted to play, they have to go to Seabreeze as the most southern place where it's played. What days of the week and what times do they play?
So we play over at Seabreeze, and just like you said, Mike, that's a very convenient location. It's kind of centrally located here in the villages. We have 6 courts over there. We play on Tuesdays. The group meets from 10 to 11:50, and then we play on Saturdays, 10 to 11:50 as well.
Mm-hmm. As we move into the summer months when it gets extraordinarily hot, are you going to move the time up to, say, 8 o'clock?
The platform tennis group has a standing reservation because the platform courts were created for the platform tennis players. So they have a standing reservation of having the courts from 7 to 10 every day of the week.
All 7 days?
All 7 days, right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have actual reserved the courts from 10 to 11:50, but that doesn't mean if the courts aren't being used, we couldn't come out earlier. And of course, residents of the villages can come out and use any of the courts during any of the times that they're not being used. So the 2 days that I mentioned on Tuesday and Saturday are actually organized days where I'll be out there. I'll have rackets. I'll have balls, you know, provided.
What about the rules of the game? You know, in pickleball, they have an extraordinarily good program of training residents, both in the classroom and then on the courts. You know, pickleball 101, pickleball 102, and then even a ranking system. Do you have any training programs set up for touch tennis?
Yes. So as I had mentioned, Russ Jones over at First Responders, he does an introduction from time to time. I know he's been traveling a little bit, but that usually is in the village guide, or it might be advertised in the paper. That's how I connected with Russ. At Seabreeze, when players come out, I actually run them through a short introduction. And that's one of the beauties of the sport, is it's very easy to learn. It's an adaptive form of tennis. So if somebody has some tennis knowledge, they'll pick it up really quickly, but that's not required. They don't have to have that.
Is there a YouTube video on the rules of touch tennis?
I'm sure there is. I have to look. I don't know. I haven't come across it, but I'll check on that. I have a rule sheet that everybody that comes out, I have them all printed. I go over the rules with them, the scoring, where to position themselves on the court, you know, all the basics that they need.
So on average, on a day that you're at Seabreeze at 10 a.m., nice convenient time, especially this time of year, how many people come out?
Well, we average about 30 players that come
30
out.
players, and you have how many courts?
We have 6 courts, so we can accommodate 24 playing at once.
Mm-hmm.
The format is very flexible. It's an adaptive format, so we can even get 5 players on one court and we just rotate a player out.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty is we can rotate them out after every game or every round. A round of touch tennis is about 20 minutes, so nobody's sitting out any longer than that. And if we rotate just every individual game, it could be rotating in and out maybe every 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, and players like that. They like to have that little extra break and, you know, grab a sip of water and socialize a little bit, because that's really what the sport is about. I mean,
so singles can come out as well, people who don't have a partner here in the villages.
Absolutely. And they can even play 2-on-1. You know, if we have 2 players, because again, the shortness of the court makes it very easy to get around. There's not a lot of heavy running and sprinting, you know, risking falling or injuring yourself. It's a step here, a step there, and basically you have the area of the court covered.
Okay. That sounds pretty good. Maybe I'll see if I can convince my wife to come out.
Absolutely. I think she would love it.
Right. And you say they're renovating the courts at Rohan. I know they're doing some renovation at Burnside as well. Are they going to be more pickleball courts or more?
I think over at Burnside, those are regulation-sized tennis courts. I don't think that they're platform tennis. But
I don't know.
But again, the beauty of the sport is that pickleball and tennis are kind of joined at the hip. I think pickleball, started on the tennis courts, and then they got their dedicated courts. And I think touch tennis and tennis is going to benefit from the growth of pickleball, because now those pickleball courts adapt really well to touch tennis. So if a pickleball court isn't being used, you really don't even need a service box to serve in touch tennis. You can just serve it diagonally, just like we adapt the format, just like they do in pickleball, and then you play the point out. I see, the growth of all of these pickleball courts as being a real plus for tennis and helping with the growth of the sport. I really think touch tennis is going to be the new boom for tennis, bringing in players that, like I had said earlier, were injured or have mobility issues, or just didn't have a chance to try the sport or thought it was too challenging.
Would it make sense for you to have a introductory section in one of the rec centers where you show videos and explain people the game?
Absolutely. I mean, the rec centers are a perfect venue for showcasing the sport and introducing it. I have a good friend, Marilyn Sherman. She's the National Director of Social Tennis with the USTA. Marilyn has been passionate about foam ball tennis, touch tennis since 2016. The USTA has been promoting it primarily since 2010 to their junior players, but they're now taking it mainstream. They're realizing it's a great way to get all players introduced to the sport. And Marilyn and the USTA really helped our growth up here. She donated a bunch of tennis rackets for us to use for new players, foam balls, and actually portable nets. So we could set portable nets up within the rec centers. We could get a group out there and in an indoor rec center, give them a demo. They can come out and try it, and that can be and go over the rules. That could be a great way to to really spread this. I mean, I see the village indoor. Yeah, we can do it.
How would that work indoors? Do you need a double size meeting room, or will it only work in the auditoriums?
I was over at Seabreeze. They've got they set that up for ping pong, and I think they have 6 ping pong tables set up there in one of their.
That's in the auditorium.
In their auditorium, we could easily get 2, maybe 4 touch tennis courts set up in there.
So you've now given yourself the absolute positive reason why you need to be a lifestyle club, so that you can ask for an auditorium to place indoors in the summertime.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, get them out of the sun, and for sure, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Can you tell our listeners, how did this sport of touch tennis get originated? Where did it come from?
So touch tennis, the actual sport, was originated in London by Rashid Ahmad. He developed it back in 2002 as a way to play tennis with his young daughter. Solely was, just a fun sport. And since then, it's kind of taken off. Rashid actually has a whole series of professional tournaments. So when you talk about who the sport appeals to, it not only appeals to beginners or existing tennis players or even pickleball players crossing over and joining in, but there's a whole professional side of the sport.
Professional side?
Yes, a whole professional side where if you Google or YouTube touch tennis, you'll see some of the tournaments, and you'll be having a double take thinking, am I watching really a Grand Slam tournament? I mean, these are skilled players that are hitting full strokes and playing like you would see a normal tennis player playing, and they're playing with a foam ball and competing for world ranking points. So
I would see that on ESPN.
You would see that right now. It's on YouTube. Most of the videos are on YouTube, and it's a great promotion of the sport. So again, it shows the diversity of the sport.
And these guys who are playing it professionally are making money for playing it.
They're playing professionally in the tournaments, or they're playing for prize money in the tournaments, and the prize money varies. Might not be a huge sum, but they're playing for prize money. So it is a professional circuit.
Well, that's very good. That's very good. And again, when did you start here in the Villages? Thanksgiving time?
Yeah, our group started in 2023. Really, it was the kickoff of the promoting the group to come out to Seabreeze was just after Thanksgiving, and did a little promotion during a Thanksgiving gathering of my neighborhood over at Sable Chase, and brought a couple rackets, brought a couple foam balls, and got people out there just tapping it back and forth, and told them how easy it was. And we had a few that came out, and it's all spread by word of mouth and people just seeing us playing and asking what's going on. And I gather their name and phone number, and then we're off and running.
Let's switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to tell our listeners about what you're doing in the world of Alzheimer's.
In the world of Alzheimer's. So there's a lot going on there. I mean, obviously the population is getting a lot older. I think right now, there's 60 to 65 million, seniors that are 60 and over. And by 2050, it's going to be up to 95. And the dementia in Alzheimer's is really becoming a big issue. Seniors are facing this, and they're seeing decline in their cognition and their brain capacity, and they're wanting to know what they can do. So the area that I'm really focusing on is on the prevention side. What can we do in terms of our lifestyle changes and making changes?
So besides the Mediterranean diet, what are some of the 2 or 3 best things that people can do, in your opinion?
Well, one of the best things is touch tennis.
Oh, gee whiz, to keep moving. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tennis, racket sports, pickleball too. Any racket sport is great for the brain. I mean, you get a tremendous amount of health benefits, but the scoring, remembering that, the rules, the switching sides, the eye contact with the ball, all of that does well. And especially if players haven't played before, learning a new sport, engaging the brain that way grows new brain cells and new connections in the brain. All that's healthy. But the area that you hit on, diet, that's a huge one. There's a number of things. I mean, stress relief, dealing with stress through meditation, through breathing. Breathing goes hand in hand with tennis as well. Tennis players, they're under stress. They're taught breathing technique. Supplementation. There's a lot of good supplements out there. If you're in tune to what you're doing with your diet, then you'll be looking at what can you do if you're lacking any type of deficiencies, and that can be done through supplementation. So those really, I think, would be the main things: learning, exercise, diet, nutrition.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to listen to Dr. Craig Curtis give us a Alzheimer's tip. Can you give our listeners one thing they can do to improve the nourishment of the brain by helping the blood vessels?
Absolutely. Exercise is critical to maintaining healthy blood vessels and therefore healthy blood flow, as well as following a Mediterranean type diet, which includes fresh fish, lots of green leafy vegetables, legumes, nuts, and cutting down our amounts of red meat and sugar.
Thank you.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the Villages community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
I'm back with Mike Dumbropski. We're talking about touch tennis. Mike, if someone wants to see you out there on the touch tennis court, and they don't want to go all the way up to first responders, which is the northern tip of the Villages, and they live in the southern part of the Villages, south of 44, is Seabreeze the only place that you teach it?
Right now, Seabreeze is the primary location, but anybody that's interested, I'm more than happy to share my phone number. They can text me. That's probably the best way.
How would someone contact you who wants more information about touch tennis?
Absolutely. They can send me a text directly. The number they can text me on is 864-208-4403. They can also reach out via email. My first name, Michael, middle initial A, last name is Dumbropski, DOMBROW. SKI, and that's at gmail.com. So if they either text me, send me an email, I'll respond. If the times that we offer kind of the free instruction or the free introduction at Seabreeze, or the times that we play at Seabreeze doesn't work, I can coordinate a time with their group. I'm more than happy to, if they want to get a small group together, we can find another time in some courts, and I can run them through a 30-minute introduction, and I guarantee I can get them out there playing in 30 minutes and enjoying the sport without much time.
So which days of the week and what, again, are you at Seabreeze?
Seabreeze, I'm over there on Tuesdays and Saturdays, 10 to 11:50 on both days. And I'm usually out there a little bit earlier. I get out there around 9, because if the courts are open, if the platform tennis players aren't out there, we actually, can jump out there and start a little bit earlier.
Right, yeah. Right. Okay. Mike, is there anything else you want to add before we end this podcast?
No, I just want to encourage everybody that wants to learn the sport to come out and join us. I'd love to get everybody in the villages that wants to learn and get them introduced to touch tennis. I would love for them also when they go back. We have a lot of snowbirds here. I'd love for the snowbirds to take this sport back and introduce it to their kids, introduce it to their grandkids. This is such a healthy sport, a fun sport, that really the whole family and all generations can play together.
And when was it actually invented in London? What year?
2002.
So it's
2002.
It's 22-year-old sport now.
It sure is, but it just, like I said, it's just now catching on. It's just now getting the traction, here in the United States. It's been through Europe. They've taken it to a professional level. I think really what held it back here is that we thought the foam ball was only for kids. And we're learning now it's for everybody.
What's the size, the diameter of the foam ball? Okay, so Mike's taken out a real touch tennis racket. It's got the sweet spot in the center marked in black, which is pretty cool. And the foam ball is probably 4.5, maybe 5 inches in diameter. I could put it against the ruler if I wanted to, but it seems like it's soft all the way through.
It sure is.
Okay, these balls probably take a beating and wear out.
Not really.
Really?
That's one of the other advantages. I mean, you can play with that ball for quite some time. It does, unless it starts kind of flaking away a little bit, from overuse, but we've been using that one for quite some time. I mean, you don't have to buy, unlike a real tennis ball where
you buy a can of three
pressure.
A can of tennis balls, they tell me, is about $30 today.
I don't know if it's that much, but you do have to.
They aren't cheap.
Yeah, and you do have to get a new can every time you play. But with the touch tennis, no, we can play with this ball for. You can play, over a month with the same ball.
And the racket is nice. It's got it's much bigger than a tennis racket, an ovaloid racket. It's probably 24 inches by 12 inches, something like that.
The head size?
Yeah.
Head size is a little bit bigger, but the actual length of the racket is 21 to 23 inches.
Okay, so the width of the racket that we're holding in our hands is 10 inches by about 14 inches. So that's a pretty big surface area.
Yeah.
That you can swipe the ball up. I hit the chairs with the racket. It's got a nice grip down here at the top of the racket where you'd scrape it against the ground as you're trying to get a low one. They've got kind of a hard plastic. So It looks like the racket itself has a great deal of durability, which is a pretty good design. And the 23 inches, the 23 on this racket means it's 23 inches from the top to the bottom.
That's correct.
And they said there's one that's a 24 as well?
21.
21.
Yeah. So 21, if you were playing in an official tournament, touch tennis tournament or event, you would use a 21-inch racket. The 23-inch racket, those were donated from the United States Tennis Association. And so they use those with their foam balls. So we're all about, promoting, my passion up here is promoting the sport for the fun, the social, and the health benefits. So we use both.
Is there any reason someone would use a 21 as opposed to a 23? Is it a height issue or is it?
No, the only reason they would use that is if they were playing in an official event, was a sponsored event, and they wanted to participate in that, they'd have to have the 21-inch racket.
Okay, so the 23 gives you a little bit more hitting area.
A little more hitting area, a little more reach with it. But again, for I think the purposes of what we're trying to do here in the villages, that both work really well.
Okay, great. Mike, thanks again for being a guest on the show. And everyone be on the lookout for Mike's new Touch Tennis Club when it is introduced.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure being here, and I really appreciate you helping us spread the word.
Great. Thanks again.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout out for supporters, Tweet Coleman, Dan Capellan, Ed Williams, and major supporter Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. We thank everyone for listening to the show. The content of the show is copyrighted by Roth Voice 2024, all rights reserved.